for Hanukkah. Should we celebrate Hanukkah? And the short answer would be no, as far as I can see, by the research that I've done. When people say that Yeshua goes up to Jerusalem, if you read John 7, 8, and 9, and 10, you see that Yeshua is actually going up to Jerusalem. And it doesn't say he leaves. He actually stays there, it seems, from the context. It doesn't say he goes up to Hanukkah, and it doesn't say he celebrates it. It just says it's the time of Hanukkah. Now, I might be wrong, but that's as far as I can see. I've seen that Michael Rood has fixed, when he lines all the four Gospels up, it seems like he has fixed some in regards of Luke. So I have to check that out. But overall, just read John 7, 8, 9, and 10 and see the context. Instead of just, a lot of people are pretty much just, promoting, lies. They will say, oh, Yeshua went up to Hanukkah. Really? So where does this say that? Oh, he kept Hanukkah. And they quote these two lines in John 10. And I'm like, let's take it in context, right? In any case, so I know Michael Rood are promoting it, at least, his... I understand the history behind it, it's interesting to know history behind it. But just because the Maccabees did something, and made a festival at the time of where the Greeks apparently dedicated the temple to a false god, as I understand, that was Zeus, and that might be connected to the winter solstice again. But overall, it's just, and they come back and then they rededicate the temple apparently at the same time, at the time of the winter solstice, in regards of all the pagans celebrating the birth of the sun, the birth of the solar deity, And I'm like, if Jehovah wanted us to celebrate, it's like we shouldn't do like the pagans, right? And it seems like it's... In any case, Jehovah knows the beginning from the end, right? So if he wanted us to keep Hanukkah, why wouldn't he have instructed that in the Bible? It's not one of the festivals found in the Torah, and that's that's the thing when new believers come to the faith. And maybe I should just do so we have a little bigger here. When new believers come to the faith, they come to, some of them come to believe that this is found in the Torah because all these people are promoting it. Now they're promoting all the festivals in the Torah as well, which is nice, but then they're promoting Hanukkah and Purim and all that. And it's just not for me, that's for sure. I see too many problems with it. Now, so I know Michael Rood is promoting this. Jim Staley is promoting it. 9 candles and all that. Apparently, Zachariah is also promoting it, and Paul Nissan is also promoting it. So these are 4 prevalent people out there in regards of on the internet and all that, and they are. All of them are on some different level, promoting it, to keep it. I really think you should, when you do that, you really should say that this is not found in the Torah, so people are aware. Wait. It's not found in the law of Jehovah, the instructions, because, as far as I experience that people actually believe it's found in the Torah sometimes. They end up believing, it's found in the Torah, right? In the beginning, you learn, and anyway, so you don't know everything in the beginning, far from, it's like it's a learning process overall. And then they're promoting it and they're promoting all the others, right? So it must be one of the commandments. No, it's not. So I just read a little more in regards of it. This is from my Jewish learning. And of course, I found sources, both Jewish sources and Western sources, in regard of whatever outside of the last 2 was a professor talking about that Christmas and Hanukkah is in regards of the winter solstice. I have, and that's of course a Western source. Then we have the Jewish source. There's two Jewish women writing a book in regards of the symbols of Judaism or Jews. I can't remember the total title on the book, but they say, there's other information and all that, but they pretty much just, say it as it is. That this is a winter solstice like Christmas. Hanukkah and Christmas are winter solstice, celebrations. And I'm like, uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. Because the winter solstice celebration is in regards of what? The solar deity, the false solar deity. So, and again, we can go back to the Maccabees and all that, but of course Hanukkah, it was a second Sukkot. It became the second Sukkot, which is not commanded in the Torah either. We are not to add it any festival and all that, but they added this festival and like a second Sukkot, and then it evolved, and now it is what it is today. And 9 candles. Where do we see that in the Bible? Absolutely nowhere. We have 7 candles. It's distorting the truth of Jehovah. It's traditions. And, as far as I know, Yeshua was breaking every kind of man-made traditions of the Jews. He was pissing them off, Every chance, these weird things he's doing in the New Testament, that we Gentiles or whatever you want to, non-Jews, of the flesh anyway, that we don't understand and all that because we don't have that. It's just breaking all these rules of the Pharisees and pretty much the man-made laws of the Jews, and he's pissing them off, In any case, and then we have the Shamash, right? You have the link from the Shamash, and I'm sure if I go into Jewish mysticism, I could probably also find more links in regards of Hanukkah. And Jewish mysticism is something that they, it's like the Kabbalah and all that bullshit, and Shekinah and all that, where they're inviting a female spirit in regards of the Sabbath and all that. They light, the women light the candles and they invite this Shekinah or Shekinah into their home and all that. That's just, pagan bullshit again. Just don't do that. Keep the Sabbath, but don't invite a female spirit into your household. That's just stupid. Any case, but anyway, in regards to Jewish mysticism, I'm sure if I used more time in regards of researching this, I could probably find links in regards of Hanukkah and Jewish mysticism. It's like there's so much. It's just so much of when you go to Israel and Jerusalem and all this. It's part of their. It's so much part of their. Anyway, I guess traditions, whatever. It's like the New Age in the West, in some sense. So here's another source that I found in regards of my JewishLearning.com. It is a short leap to surmising that the Syrian Greeks may have chosen the 25 of Kislev, and by the way, Kislev is, I think, actually coming from Babylon as well. When you go to the Torah, you don't see all these names, which they later begin to use in regards to the month. Just because something is written in the Bible that the Jews do something and all that, it's not to say that we, it's not to say that they're just showing what they're doing, And, in the Torah, we see God using, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forward in regards of the, let's see here if we can get another thing in regards of it's a little annoying in the background. But that's not to, it's not to say that we should do just because the Jews are, getting more traditions and all that. The closer we can get to the law of Jehovah, the better, In any case, let's see if we can maybe, nope, that's not going to work. And of course, maybe we can do like this. There we go. Then we can still get some truth out there. And there we go. The 2 most important things to know. That was a little. To know who the Antichrist is. And, that's, there we go. to know who Jesus is and to know who the Antichrist is, and it seems like that that this is a nearly lost knowledge in regards of who the Antichrist is, and yet all the Protestants knew that in the past. Interesting, isn't it? Anyway, so let's get back to it. So it is a short lead to surmising that. Oh yeah, by the way, in regards to the shamash, the 9 candles, right? In the middle of this 9 candles, menorah, which is not biblical, in the middle is the shamash. Now they say the shamash is the helper or the servant, and they use that to light the other 8 candles. But if you actually search shamash, the exact same word, on Google, you will get to a Mesopotamian sun god. I guess it's just a coincidence again, right? An interesting coincidence, I think. But anyway, you can make your own mind and all that, but yeah. So, as a time to desecrate, okay, so let's see here. It is a short leap to surmising that the Syrian Greeks may have chosen the 25 of Kislev, and I'm not sure which month that would be. Of course, that would be, what, number 10? 9? Let's see here, 7, 8, that would be 9, I think. We could check it just to be sure. I'm not grown up with these things, and there's a lot of things to learn. Kislev, yeah, that's number 9. Yep, got it correct. So in the 9th month of the biblical calendar, the Syrian Greeks may have chosen the 25 of the 9th month as a time to desecrate the temple by making, and you have to remember because you have to remember that the calendar of Jehovah, the new year, is in spring. You okay? So it's not the pagan new year of Janus in the winter. This is paganism in regards to the 2-headed false god of Janus. Roman traditions, right? Bullshit. Anyway, so it is a short leap to surmising that the Syrian Greeks may have chosen the 25 of Kislev as a time to desecrate the temple by making their own sacrifices, and I think that was in regards of unclean pigs on the altar. They are precisely because it was a time of solar and lunar darkness. By making their own sacrifices, they are precisely, okay, I get it. As a time to desecrate the temple by making their own sacrifices, there precisely because it was a time of solar and lunar darkness. The time of the winter solstice and the waning of the moon. And it is a short leap to surmise that the Maccabees, when they took the anniversary of that day as a day of rededication, were rededicating not only the temple, but the day itself to Jewish holiness. Were capturing a pagan solstice festival that had won wide support among the partially Hellenized Jews in regards of those Jews that have been Greekanized, Hellenized, Greekanized, in regards of, if I remember correctly, that's a good amount that actually follows the Greek tradition, the Greek, so that would make sense, So we're rededicating not only the temple, but the day itself to Jewish holiness. We're capturing a pagan solstice festival that had won wide support among the partially Hellenized Jews in order to make it a day of God's victory over paganism. Really? So let's just take the pinnacle of pagan celebration in regards of the winter solstice and make it our own? Did God say we should do that? Anyway, that's, I don't think so. Even the lighting of candles for Hannukkah fits the context of the surrounding torchlight honors for the sun. And I read about that. I think I've seen 2 sources on that. That was in regards of one that told, I haven't verified it, but, one source was in regards to the Romans that was lighting bonfires to get the sun going again, right? It's just whatever, and then another one I read that was into the east of Israel, so what was that? That was burning something as well, I was just so I guess in regards to that, you're just burning candles, right? Lighting candles, whatever. So that seems to be maybe another link for connecting it to, solar worship and all that. Some commentators have objected that Hanukkah cannot be a solstice festival because it is tied to the lunar, not the solar cycle. But this objection ignores the fact that the festivals that are most clearly solar, Sukkot, and Passover, the festivals of fall and spring, are nevertheless tied to the full moon for their dates. The objection also ignores the fact that Judaism insists on keeping the sun and moon cycles in tension with each other in its entire calendar, never adopting either a purely lunar or purely solar calendar, but insisting that each be corrected by the other. And that's, you see Hanukkah, for example, is now in the time of Christmas, right? People are, Hanukkah, we can see the calendar actually. Let's get to the calendar. So, there we go. You can see Hanukkah, and then we have Christmas, Christ Mass in regards of the Antichrist and all that. And then we have Hanukkah. But of course that moves because the Jews are using a different calendar than the Roman pagan sun calendar, as you can see up there. I've written it down. Anyway, the Julian, Gregorian, Popish, Roman sun calendar, whatever. So this article goes into that. It's called myjewishlearning.com. So I was interested because I've heard on these pagan traditions of lighting bonfires and so that's an interesting connection, I can't remember the last source, in regards to the East. I can't remember where I got that from. But it's just, pagan bullshit everywhere. They have all these pagan traditions everywhere. And you can use so much time studying these things and all that. But in the end, is it written in the Torah? Is it written in the Torah? Because Satan is a very clever deceiver. And just because something is written in the Maccabees, just because they do something, is not to say that we should do it, It's not to say that this is the right way. We have the Bible writing a lot of things where the Jews don't do what they should do. And it doesn't mean we should do it, It just writes it that was what they did, Historical, that's what they did, And... I think in the book of book of Maccabees, it also talks about praying to the ancestors or something like that. I can't remember, but I think that was something like that. That doesn't mean that we should do that, right? Whatever. Anyway, I think that was something. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that I can't remember where it was. It's a long time since I read it. So all these different connections in regards to the what do you call it? Solstice, the winter solstice, the Shamash linking to a Mesopotamian sun god, it might just be a coincidence, but it might not, who knows. And then I saw Jim Staley saying that this light, which is called the Shamash, represents Yeshua. Well, isn't it the same? If we are actually having a winter solstice celebration, isn't it the same thing to that we're doing, like in regards to the Roman Catholics? Isn't it the exact same thing when they take an image and say that's Yeshua and put the sun disk around it and all that, and pagan sun worship, solar worship, that it's just Roman Catholicism. It's just pagan bullshit, full of pagan bullshit. It's nothing to do with Christianity. and yet the high pagan priest thinks himself the head of all Christianity. That's utter nonsense, and we should absolutely not subscribe to that. And no one of the Protestants, the Christian Protestants, subscribed to that. They knew who the Antichrist was, and they didn't care what he, we're going by the Bible. Now, they had a lot of issues, but the thing is that we just need to pull rope, because if we stop pulling rope and if we don't stand against Satan, and we just let go of the rope, well, he takes it all, and he has taken a lot because people don't care about the truth anymore, or they don't know about it. They haven't heard it, because, this bullshit world pretty much have deception and lies everywhere. So yeah, I'm just careful, and I just see these four people promoting Hannukkah, and I would disagree, that I think we should be very careful. Satan is a very, very, very clever deceiver. He's, we should not underestimate the devil in regards of leading us into things that we might not, even if we don't know about what it actually is, like Christmas. We didn't know about Christmas, right? And then you learn about it and you find out this is pagan. It's pagan bullshit everywhere. It's a winter solstice celebration, right? It's just, and you find out about Easter and all the rest of the bullshit, the New Year, the false New Year of Janus and all that. Anyway, so in regards of the research that at least I've, seeing sources here and there, it's just, it begins to form more of a pagan, and I know the Jews have their traditions, which are, some of the traditions are not good, are really, really bad, and it's slick, it's very slick. Satan is slick. He's very slick and he's very clever, and so is his, demons and followers. And I really have to be careful. Now, I'm not saying that these four guys, they're promoting a lot of good stuff. I'm just saying that I have problems with this. So I'm not, they're doing a lot of good things, they're promoting a lot of good things. So I'm not saying that, but Satan has his, he has his workers out there, and they are, clever and smart. I think Satan probably has some of the most educated people out there working for him. So we have to be careful. We have to be very, very careful. And of course, we can pick things that are wrong and all that, and I might be wrong, but just see the connections, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to touch that. And don't we have enough for actually learning the festivals of Jehovah found in the Torah? Don't we have enough? Don't we have enough to learn? Having come out from this pagan bullshit that we see around us, we need to learn these festivals of Jehovah, right? And it's like, isn't there a lot to learn already? And they're all about Jesus, Yeshua, and so why concentrate on Hanukkah or Purim and all that? And I've heard the argument that there was no really discussion in regards to Hanukkah and all that. Well, I haven't really researched in regards to deeper into it, in regards to when they did it. But, again, if they actually did it in regards of because of the Hellenizers, the Greekanizers, those that, the Jews that, ended up conforming to Greek values, and to, if they actually made this a festival because it was easier that's the same thing that the Roman Catholic Church are doing, have done, this pagan bullshit system, right? Oh, we have all these sun worshippers. How do we get oh yeah, we'll just, we'll make Christmas, right, on the day of the the winter solstice, right? So they can easier come into to the congregation, right? And if they don't want to come into our congregation, we'll slaughter them, right? And persecute them like the Christians and all that don't want to come into our system either, because they have found out, or they know enough, so they reject this bullshit system of the whole of Rome, and this Roman system that thinks to change times and laws and persecutes the saints. Yep, the whole riding on the authority of the beast, in the book of Revelation. In any case, don't take part in her wicked deeds. So I guess that's all for me in some sense. I might have a thing to check out in regards of the book of Luke, in regards of see if I can find anything that suggests that he should have. But if we read the book of John, there's nothing that suggests that he leaves Jerusalem. There is a lot to suggest that he stays in Jerusalem as he is in the temple, after Sukkot. You see he's in the temple, and he's in the temple, So at the time of Hannukkah, well, he's still in Jerusalem, And he leaves at the time of Hanukkah, either at the festival or just after, because they want to stone him again. They want to kill him, They have a tendency to want to do that, They already wanted to do that before he went up to Sukkot, as far as I remember. So I think the quick answer in regards to should we celebrate Hanukkah, I would say no. I don't know. Maybe it's not a popular view to say no to that, because people, going from Christmas, they want to have something else they need something else apparently. They just need a festival. It's like, why? Why can't we just, have a, be a normal day and all that? I don't know. Why is it that we need to have some party, which we know is something that the pagans, at the time were celebrating for the solar deity, Why would we need to partake in anything, in regards? I don't know. Shouldn't we just look to Passover and the 7 days of unleavened bread? That is the next festival, that is on the calendar. So, and in regards of the New Year, of course, there's no command to celebrate the New Year in the Bible, as far as I know. But if we're going to celebrate the New Year, at least let us do it on the right time. That is just, if we're going to do it, at least let us do it in the time where Jehovah have actually said that the New Year actually is. The other thing is just bullshit. That's just bullshit, And of course we see Rome, how they made fun of apparently those that still kept it in regards of, was it close to March or something like that? I think it was March. I'm not so good to the Roman calendar. It was a March, I think. The pilgrims and all that in the US and all that kept to, I think was the 25th of March. That's a lot closer to the real New Year, Anyway, but getting us more and more away from the instructions of Jehovah and making it harder for us to understand the Bible, every single little bit that Satan corrupts. Every single thing that Satan ends up, distorting and all that, the harder it becomes for us to, it might be minor things, but those minor things might actually be important. Seems like my beef is getting done. So anyway, just turning it around. Anyway, I don't think I have much more, but I think there's enough sources and information to maybe question this, And again, if I did some more research into Jewish mysticism, I might find more links. But it would be easier with some people that actually have been into Jewish mysticism to promote that, instead of me wasting time. Well, it's not wasting my time, but, it's everything takes time to research, And, at the end, it's not found in the Torah, and that's the foundation. And when it's not found in the Torah, I don't understand why these people are like exposing all these pagan things, right? And yet ends up promoting Hanukkah, which is, I just think is like going from one church to another church in some sense, I do understand the history behind it, it's interesting and could be valuable and all that, but that doesn't mean that we should do as they did, just because it says in the book of, or the books of Maccabees that they did it. And that's not to say that we should do it, Again, if we should do everything that the Bible said, we could end in paganism, right? Because all the things that the Jews did was not always good. It was not always correct. It was not always the way of righteousness. You see again where Jehovah is rebuking the Jews again and again, and all the Israelites, the Israelites and the Jews, whatever, it depends in regards to the history, time, and all that. But anyway, in regards of, but I guess you understand what I mean. He was rebuking them again and again. Hey, come back to me. And they went astray, and then they got into trouble, and then they came back to him, and they got help from him, and then they turned away again, and then they got in trouble again, and then they turned back to him again, and again and again and again and again. It's just, oh, come on, So that's anyway. So that's all for me. And I don't know if there's any other thing that I could just, but if you, just look up Shamash, the little candle in the middle that, Jim Stady says that's, a symbol for Yeshua. Well, really, and again, shouldn't we be careful actually, if this is actually a sun festival, a solar festival in regards to the sun birth, a pagan festival and all that, and the Shamash actually represents something else, are we not doing the exact same thing that the Roman Catholics are then doing? And there's no menorah with 9 candles in the Bible. God's menorah has 7 candles, It's distortion of the truth. And then we're doing these weird things, and the Jews as well, when they light these candles, because it's rabbinic bullshit and all that, they light the candles and say, Jehovah, they don't use the name. They're not allowed to use the name apparently, right? Hashem, whatever. They say that God has commanded them to do this, which is utter nonsense. It's utter bullshit. So again, another thing that, should, and there's probably a lot more. I know that they have these, God has commanded us to do this and that and all that. And it's all bullshit, many of the times. It's just, they say it in different instances of doing different things and all that. And the thing is, it's a lie. God didn't command them to do a lot of these man-made doctrines. And was what Yeshua was breaking pretty much, every instant that he could, he just broke them, and seemingly on purpose, he was pissing them off. He was not breaking the Torah, he was breaking their man-made laws. That was what he was breaking. He wanted them to come back to the law of Moses. Look at the first believers in Yeshua. They were zealous and on fire for the law. For the law of Moses, the written law, as we have to be careful if some Jews are told, because they would take the oral law as well. But anyway, so written law. We're talking about the written law. Yeshua wanted them to come back to the written law, and and he didn't break it. People are like, oh, he broke it. No, he didn't break it. He didn't break it. He was breaking all the man-made doctrines of theirs. He was the perfect, spotless, sinless Lamb of Jehovah, right? So if he broke it, that would, he wouldn't have been the perfect, spotless, sinless Lamb, right? So he couldn't have broken it, and he didn't break it. So, anyway, he was just breaking their bullshit, pretty much, and their understanding of, how to. So, anyway, so. And just because John says that he's there, doesn't mean he's just in the temple. He was in the temple, before that. I was there teaching, as far as I can see. He's there teaching for after Sukkot. He stays in Jerusalem. Okay, you teach, and you have a lot of things going on in these chapters, and then it's the time of Hannukkah. There's not a single evidence in the book of John that he goes off. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, if one dig deeper into it, one could probably find more. it's a little sad. I found this another guy that talks against Christ Mass and showing also in sources and all that, and he was really good. And he was really good, and he had like a 1 hour and 30. He had a small thing like 20 minutes, and then he had a 1 hour and 30 minutes. And I was like, okay, and I was pretty good. It was actually pretty good. And then it comes around 1 hour and something and so all that, and then then it came. Then the Paulus leaven came in. Roman Pharisee Paulus. You see, this guy was attacking, Christ Mass, which we call Yule in Denmark. Yule, Jølner, Odin, and all that, another pagan link and all that. So either if you go down to the Antichrist in regards to Christ Mass, and the Mass is in regards to this blasphemy of thinking that this cookie becomes Yeshua, this sun cookie, this solar cookie. Look at it, it looks like a sun. And they put it in a monstrance with sun rays around it. Couldn't have anything to do with pagan solar worship, could it? And then you have other links in regards to pagans actually having the cookie thing already. Anyway, well, I remember one of the stories. I have, I have two stories, but one of them I can remember better than the other. But one of them where they came over to South America, and they had seen these people doing this, and it's like, what is this? These Roman Catholics are coming out. What? This is what we're doing. Well, there's like, anyway. So where did they get it from? Well, maybe because they were worshiping the sun, and thinking to eat God and all that in regards to the little cookie, round cookie, solar disc, whatever. Anyway, so and they think to sacrifice this cookie. In regards to the Mass, they think to sacrifice this cookie for the dead and the living again and again and again and again and again in the Roman Catholic whorehouses. Okay, the synagogues of Satan, the meeting houses of the snake. Any case, so Yeshua died once and for all, not in a perpetual, continual sacrifice. Just bullshit. And he wasn't a cookie. Do this in remembrance of me, Breaking the bread and drinking a little wine, do this in remembrance of me. Not to say that, hey, I become this cookie, Do it to remember what I did for you, He was the living bread that came down from the heavens. He was the living bread that was broken, and his wine poured out for the sins of the world. Once and for all. Don't all the rest of the bullshit, we don't need that. Anyway, so... Any case, yeah. So, but yeah, the guy, he was, actually he has some pretty good material, But then he goes over to using Paulus every time people want to defend lawlessness and where we get into issues and all that, people go to Paulus. So this guy actually, is really good in regards of taking out Christ Mass and Easter and Halloween and all that, and primarily Christ Mass in that video. But he talks a little about them all, and there's more information on their website and all that. So and he has a lot of truth, absolutely. So what does he do that is so terrible? In my eyes anyway. He goes to Paul, and then he uses Paul to say that I don't want you to keep those old Jewish festivals either. And it's like, what? Yeah, those old festivals, found in the Old Testament, I don't want you to keep those either, because we're not allowed to do that either, because Paul says. I'm like, you have to be kidding me, Paul, that's, the leaven of that Roman Pharisee that has just seeped out throughout the world in regards to Christianity. It's so sad. Yeshua did warn us about the leaven of the Pharisees, didn't he? He actually warned us about wolves in sheep clothing, right? That if possible could deceive the elect. You see all these, he's warning us about this whole system, that is, and Satan is going to sow the seeds after Yeshua had been here. As Yeshua said, in regards to the parable of the good eatable seeds and the poisonous darnel. Where do you think we find the poisonous darnel? Today, it's the Roman Catholics. It's the Roman Catholics. Yeshua will say, there will be people in the future. This is still future that says, Lord, Lord, haven't we done wonderful, works in your name? Haven't we done wonderful things and driven out demons in your name? In your name. They think he's Lord, right? They're proclaiming him. And what does he say? Truly I tell you, I never knew you. I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. Now, what is iniquity? That's lawlessness. Now, do you think he's talking about the Antichrist law? The Roman Antichrist law, the canon laws and all that bullshit and church meetings and whatever? Do you think he's talking about that? Or maybe talking about, being the Jewish Messiah, right? Maybe he's talking about the law of Moses. Could it be? Could it be that it's the law of Moses he's talking about? And actually, if you actually go to the Greek, it's actually anomos, and a in Greek, that's far as I don't know Greek so much, but I did the research on it. And a is meaning no or not, and nomos is in regards to the law. So, as far as I can see, it could actually be translated, you that are without the law. You that are without the law. Go away from me. I don't, he's rejecting them. Wow, okay, yeah. So, is the law abolished, as so many people believe? No, it's not. If it's abolished, why would he talk about it in the future? And we have other sayings in regards of, mostly in the book of Matthew. Of course, the saints are those that keep God, protect the commandments of Jehovah, and the testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach, right? It's not to say that we're perfect, but we have a master to follow as disciples, right? It's not, we are sinners, right? We understand, it's like he paid the ransom for us. He paid the price. But that is not to say that we should leave the God of, or the law of God. If Satan can get us to leave the law of God and the scriptures, we are really in a bad position. Why? Well, how are we going to understand what is going on in the world? If we leave the old, just take an example. If we leave the so-called Old Testament, right? How are we to understand the book of Revelation? How many keys is found in the book of Daniel in regards to understanding what is going on in the book of Revelation? So, and in regards of evolution, pagan, satanic evolution. If we're not going to read the first 2 pages of the Bible because, it's the Old Testament, right? Do you think that Satan could deceive us? Yeah, he could, and he has. 82% of the Danish people believe in evolution. I was one of them. We get it from our childhood, family, society, television, school, and all that. We don't hear about the other in regards to creation, We don't hear about that. We hear about evolution. It's like propaganda. Yes, it is propaganda. It's bullshit. It's lying. It's deceptive. And of course, if we just, we would understand more if we actually knew the word of God. But we have been led astray from the Bible. And now we have all the Roman circus and the Roman Colosseum. Well, the Roman circus pretty much, right? So, it's like Roman circus, Roman arena, all the fun stuff, right? So-called fun, the sport thing, sports my here and sports my there, that doesn't change anything, but keeps the people occupied, right? And then we have the Roman theater, right? With a lot of, movies and bullshit and a lot of paganism being promoted on us and our children, and of course desensitizing us in regards of sin, and sin is transgression of the law. So, it's another interesting thing, right? Why would they talk about sin after Yeshua had been executed if the law is abolished? Because if the law is abolished, there's no sin, right? There's no transgression of the law if the law is abolished. But Paul says, I don't care what this Roman Pharisee is saying. You should be very careful of Satan. He's very deceptive. You don't think he would send his best people to try to distort the truth, So anyway, on so many levels, Satan is trying to distort the truth, So Paul says, the law is, on the tree and whatever and all that, and leads people into lawlessness, right? And uses the Judaizing every time people are attacking, Judaizers and all that, and Jewish, festivals, which is actually just the festivals of Jehovah. They use Paul. They go into like John Chrysostom in the late 4th century, and they just give it, I have it here, so let's just read a little, right? It's just, listen to this. How these, these are Romanizers. This guy was a Romanizer. He was promoting Christ Mass. He goes into attacking the festivals of Jehovah in the 4th century, maybe because someone is actually keeping it. Yeah, he actually says there's many in our ranks. This is the late 4th century. There are many in our ranks. In regards of, Judaizers, what? It's just incredible. So there seems to be, many, that actually... Anyway, and then he begins to promote Christ Mass because Rome. He actually, talks about Rome. Yeah, because it's a Roman tradition of bullshit. And of course, that's a time where the pagan high priest of Constantine is, the head of Christianity, begins this and council and all that. Anyway, and mixes it all together and we changes. Anyway, there's a lot of... Anyway, it's all, just see history. You can just see how Rome does fulfill prophecy in regards of thinking to change. And just only thinking, right? So apparently, it's only thinking to change times and laws. So the law is apparently still there, right? Anyway... So this is John Chrysostom. This is the late 4th century. This is after the Nicene Council and so forward and all that. And yet we have people, so-called Judaizing, right? Yeah, we have a lot of people Romanizing, that's for sure. And we have lost a lot of information because of the Romanizers. So what is this disease? A disease? Yeah, what is this disease? The festivals of the pitiful and miserable Jews are soon to march upon us, one after the other, and in quick succession. The Feast of Trumpets, the Feast of Tabernacles, and the fast. I'm not sure what the fast, because it's plural. I'm not sure what that... Anyway, and he says, there are many in our ranks who say they think as we do, yet some of these are going to watch the festivals. And others will join the Jews in keeping their feast and observing their fast. I'm not sure what these fasts... I know there's one fast in regards to atonement, usually, in regards of inflicting yourself. It says to inflict yourself, right? So... I'm not sure you need to fast, but you need to, the idea is to inflict yourself. And one of the ways to inflict yourself biblically is to fast. And then you have a way of, breaking the clothing as well and fixing, dust in the head. In regards of they had fire things, ashes in the head, I think it was. Anyway, of course, we don't do much in regards of burning of wood anymore. So, in any case, but they would have had it, I would think, a lot of ashes in regards of... So anyway, let's see here. So join the Jews in keeping their feast and observing their fast. I wish to drive this perverse custom from the church right now. Yeah, he's a Romanizer. He's working for Rome. At least he's not a Judaizer, that's for sure, So let's see a little longer here, But now that the Jewish festivals are close by and at the very door, if I should fail to cure those who are sick with the Judaizing disease, I am afraid that because of their ill-suited association and deep ignorance, some Christians may partake in the Jews' transgressions. Once they have done so, I fear my homilies on these transgressions will be in vain. For if they hear no word from me today, they will then join the Jews in their fast. Plural again, I'm not sure what, Anyway, once they have committed this sin, sin of keeping the festivals of Jehovah, it will be useless for me to apply the remedy. And this is just a little of it. There's 8 sermons on this bullshit. Now it's not, but it's called the Against the Jews. It's John Chrysostom Against the Jews. 8 sermons of, and of course he's using Paul or Paulus or Shaul. Why would he be using him? Well, maybe because Paulus actually was the beginning of the poisonous seeds. In any case, So he was, a wolf in sheep clothing. Go read 2 Timothy 1:15 and then see what Paulus himself says. And when you have read that and understood what it says and not really, not twisted it or anything like that, actually, I've experienced that. I think actually, no, at least one I've seen twist this, to defend Paulus. It's incredible how people, it's like when you become from, when you get into Christianity, you see, it's like nearly sometimes getting into a nut house, it's like sometimes you're like, how can people not, come on, how can you, anyway. So when you have read 2 Timothy 1:15, you go to Revelation 2 and 2, chapter 2, verse 2. So that's just, that's the easy road in some sense. So you have to remember that all Asia includes all the 7 congregations that Yeshua is by the Apostle John. He's writing to these 7 congregations in Asia Minor. That's the exact same area that have rejected Paul and turned their back on him, and stop following him. So you go to chapter 2, verse 2, and look at that. And you can begin to piece up the puzzles in regards to these things. So I think Yeshua is totally exposing the whole system of this, the whole thing. We are we are instructed and so we can perceive what is actually happening in the world. And he's warning us. He's giving us the one warning after another. He's not warning us about Muhammad, a stinking wolf. You can smell him miles away. This is clearly a false prophet that denies that Jesus is the Son of God, right? They deny that he's God in the flesh. They deny that he was executed, and of course they deny his resurrection. You see, so Muhammad, coming nearly 600 years after the event, is a stinking wolf that has no sheep clothing on, and any Christian should be able to discern and not go into, and say this abominable oath, or what is it called, shahada or whatever, I can't remember, where they deny that God has a son, In any case, but Yeshua was warning us about something else. He was warning us about wolves in sheep clothing. Wolves in sheep clothing that, if possible, could deceive the elect, So, piecing all the pieces together and all that. And we know that Yeshua said that good eatable seeds shall grow up with the poisonous darnel. Okay, so they're growing together, and this is still ongoing. And then later on, the poisonous darnel will be burned, and then the good eatable wheat will be taken into his barn, but that's still future. So we are still ongoing in that prophecy in regards to the seeds. So, it's like in regards of these, what do you call it, priest or whatever you want. I think my meat is pretty done. It's like, they have lost, the saltiness of them, it's just incredible. It's just they are the very, the churches are the very promoters of pagan doctrines. They are the very one that defends. If you go to a priest or whatever, and this was not. They will defend all this bullshit, all these fallacies, and it's incredible. It's just disgusting. In regards of Yeshua being executed on a Friday, isn't it interesting that in regards of that? In regards to that, they know when the Sabbath is, because that, at that point, at that very point, they know when the Sabbath is. They know when the 7th day actually is. It's like, oh yeah, Yeshua was executed on Friday because it's a Sabbath the next day, and that's the Sabbath the next day, and that's Saturday. Wait, did you just say you know when the Sabbath is? Did you just say that to me? Now, of course, they make a false conclusion, because I don't think Yeshua was executed on Friday, because you only get 36 to 38 hours from Friday to Sunday morning. So anyway, I made the calculations on that and whatever, in the past, and I still have a lot of my notes, over here. But it's just. But if you go the other direction as well, you get into a problem as well. Now, of course, they usually have this slick answer, right, in regards of, all the Jews, thinking in a different way and all that bullshit, right? That's just utter nonsense. But, usually people don't actually, talk about the other direction because, people don't read the first part of the Bible, and thereby they don't know that there's also a problem in the other direction. So, of course, we have all this Sunday bullshit, and yeah. Anyway, let's see. I do have some of my notes from the past. You have 36 to 38 hours from, and then you have 60 to 62 in regards of. So if you want to have 72 hours in regards to 3 nights and 3 days, you have to go to Wednesday. You have to go back to Wednesday. And then he actually might have been resurrected at the end of the Sabbath, at the beginning of Sunday. So anyway, the grave was found empty in the morning, but that's not to say that he wasn't actually resurrected before that. Anyway, yeah. And of course, others actually found this out as well. So that's nice to have some agreement that others that have dug into it actually have also came to that conclusion. And there's other problems as well in regards of he's traveling. If we're going to go by what we have, he's traveling like nearly 26 kilometers on the Sabbath. Yeah, I'm not sure he would do that. Anyway, it just seems a little, whatever. As far as I can see in regards to this, as far I took the cities and calculated the distance. If I got the right cities, that would be around 26 kilometers. And I think it seems a little unlikely that he would do that, But anyway, that's just me. So that's, it adds up. Everything adds up to saying, there's some problems here, right? Any case, whatever the case, of course, the most important thing is to know that he actually died for the sins of the world. The sins, the transgressions. It's not to say that the law is abolished. Yeah, he came to fulfill, scripture. But there's still more to be fulfilled. So. When it's like we know in regards to the book of Revelation, it actually talks about when everything is fulfilled. I can't remember where it is in the book of Revelation, but he fulfilled a lot of prophecies, but there's yet more to come. And of course that's one of the reasons why the Jews have rejected. That's because they're looking to all the other prophecies and seeing, hey, he didn't fulfill these. So he can't be the Messiah. Well, maybe because that's the second time he's coming. Any case, that's anyway, I should stop, and it's going low on battery anyway. But in regards to Hanukkah, I don't think we should celebrate Hanukkah, and that's and again, I could dig deeper in it and all that, but I just I guess I'll stand on the safe side then actually So that's my opinion anyway. Have a good one, all of you. May Yeshua be with you, and may Jehovah be with you, and Yeshua be a most precious pearl, and may the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth, be in us all. And I think we have problems. Maybe it's logging down. Bye-bye.